You're watching Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. It is mailbag time, and I'll tell you this. I already got a little sneak peek at some of the mailbag questions, and a lot of you guys are wondering, who is leaving? Who's coming into Seattle in 2025? And I can already tell you, there's two key players that I am pretty certain are not returning to this team this upcoming season. We'll tell you who those individuals are and answer the rest of your mailbag questions coming up on today's show. Before we do, folks, want to make sure not only that you are subscribed to Seattle Seahawks Today, but that you have your notifications turned on as well for the latest happenings in your favorite team all off season long. Anytime we have breaking news, a live show, trade, free agency, whatever it may be, you got to stay up to date. It is not good enough to be a subscriber to the channel. You have to have your notifications turned on and join what we call the NOTI gang around here. If you're part of that NOTI gang, spam NOTI gang in the comments section. Never miss a moment. Lock us in. Subscribe now for free. And you can join us for our next mailbag show that we do on our live shows right here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now. You'll be glad you did. We'll get started with today's show. First question comes from DumDum13. DumDum, you give me gum. Will Tyler Lockett be back next year? DumDum, I hate to say it. The answer is no. I do not think Tyler Lockett is going to be back next year. And there's a couple of reasons why. Let's start with the financials. He has a cap hit of over $30 million next year. All right? Why on earth would this Seahawks team take on a cap hit of $30+ million for an aging receiver who's coming off the worst season in a long time, maybe ever, that he's had in Seattle? You look at the numbers of what he did last season. 49 catches, 600 yards, just 2 touchdowns. That's not a bad year necessarily, but it's not a year worth the money that it would cost to keep Tyler Lockett. And if you were listening to him in his postgame news conference against the Rams, it sounded like he was saying his goodbyes, that he knows where this is going at this point. And I know some of you are saying, well, you know, he could get cut and then re-sign potentially and all that. Yeah, but if you're Tyler Lockett, I think what you're looking at doing is making sure you get all your money. And then from there, you figure out, all right, where can I make a decent amount of money and be on a contending team? And Seattle is really pressed for cash at this point. Even if, let's just say, they let go of Tyler Lockett and, you know, are looking at potentially bringing him back after that, I just don't see the money being there of what he is going to get compared to other teams on the open market. And the team I keep pointing back to that catches my eye when it comes to Tyler Lockett is a potential homecoming to Kansas City, to the Kansas City Chiefs. His dad played there. He's from Oklahoma. That was his team growing up. That, to me, if he's going to leave Seattle where he's played his entire career, if he's looking for somewhere else to have a storybook ending, I could see him going to Kansas City and trying to chase a ring with those guys and follow in his father's footsteps, something like that. I would be very shocked. I'd be very surprised. He's going to go in the Ring of Honor someday. I can't wait to see Tyler raise up that 12th man flag. He's done a lot of great things for this Seahawks team, but it does seem like the end is finally here for Tyler Lockett. Should the Seahawks bring back Tyler Lockett next year? Type Y for yes, in for no. Weigh in our pinned comment today and let us know what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Fume. You may be wondering, what is Fume? Well, let me tell you. Have you heard that flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits, led by the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Fume is an award-winning flavor air device that draws flavor to your mouth, not your lungs. It's a great way to satisfy your oral fixation with non-toxic flavors, free from nicotine or vapor, and it's safe to use anywhere. Fume's design is also about more than just flavor. It's an awesome fidget tool with magnets and clicks that help calm anxiety. You'll love how Fume fuels Premium quality, sleek design, and perfect for taking with you on the go. If you're used to vapor, Fume may not be as strong as you'd expect at first, but we also won't leave you in a hospital bed. Fume can be compared to an herbal tea if vapor was compared to a sticky soda. Not as sweet, and a lot more natural. Fume has already helped over 300,000 people build better habits. Try Fume today. And if you order the Journey Pack now using my code ChatSports, you'll get a free Fume topper and awesome accessory to level up your experience. Go to tryfume.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on the screen. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Check out Fume today. You'll be glad you did. C. Diehard writes in, do you expect Draymond Jones to return next year? That is a big no. And unlike Tyler Lockett, in a perfect world, I would like to have Tyler Lockett back in Seattle. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a very flawed world, to be honest. Draymond Jones, hindsight being 2020, that was a bad signing. That was a bad ordeal for Seattle to pay all the money they did to Draymond Jones, and the lack of production that we saw from Draymond Jones in his career with this Seahawks team the last 2 seasons. Highest paid player on this Seahawks defense, and really just has nothing to show for it. And, you know, the first year, a lot of blame was on Pete Carroll and Clint Hurt in the defensive scheme, and that they were not putting him and others in a position to succeed. And part of that was very true. But then you go to a new scheme, a new play caller, and we didn't see much better results from Draymond Jones. Almost called him Draymond Green. But think about this, too. They've tried to mix him around. They've tried the defensive end spot. They've tried the outside linebacker position. And it just hasn't worked. He's been given plenty of opportunities and no results to show for it. I don't imagine anybody trading for him and taking on that contract. I think you're going to just cut him and take the losses and go from there. Do you expect the Seahawks to bring back Draymond Jones? What do you guys think? Type C for cut, K for keep. Should they do it? I'm saying get out of here. Get him out of here. Weigh in. Let us know in the comments section. Time for a couple more questions. Fan of Tyler Jones? Oh, well, there's at least one of you out there. Who is the most to blame for the Seahawks missing the playoffs? The old blame game here. So the Seahawks became the first team in the 14 playoff history to win 14 games and still miss the postseason, right? That's not great. You know, you win 10 games and you still miss in the 14-team playoff. It sucks. But with that said, you know, I think that the conversation about this team would be much different if they were in the postseason, of how we would look back on this season. But it's still a very successful year, considering that the last 2 seasons you went 9-8. The defense tremendously improved. But with that said, we do have to do some finger pointing. And I think it goes back to the offensive line. And it's twofold, right? It's the mistakes that were made in the personnel that John Schneider and company chose for those positions. John doing a bad job drafting those spots, and also his refusal to pay quality players in free agency for those positions. But then, too, the lack of development, too. I think that you look at across the National Football League, we are quick to call guys a bust and to say this guy didn't do his job and underperformed and whatever it may be. What about the coaching? What about developing those guys? And Scott Huff was not a good offensive line coach. Ryan Grubb did not push these guys hard enough and get the most out of them. To me, I think it's kind of twofold. It goes to the one making the personnel decisions, but I think the offensive staff underperformed in developing those offensive linemen. So for me, that's the most blame for the Seahawks missing the playoffs, because if their offensive line was just a little bit better, you're not losing games against the Giants, for example, among others. You would be in the postseason and you would have won the division. Last question, Electric 12s writes in. Tell us something optimistic about the Seahawks' future. You got some good foundational pieces. They're going to be here a long time, right? JSN, Devon Witherspoon, Leonard Williams. I think Ernest Jones is going to re-sign and get a new deal. I mean, you got some good key pieces to build upon. Now you just got to complete the job. And to me, that's what I look at. Although Seattle is picking towards the middle of the draft again, and it is hard to not get stuck in the middle where Seattle's been the last few seasons, right? We know that you either are at the top and you're just doing what you can to stay there, or you go to the bottom and try to rise up fast that way. This is the toughest spot to try to take that next level, is when you're in the middle. But with some of these pieces that are there, you're in good shape of those foundational pieces, guys that are going to be here for a long time. And I haven't even mentioned the likes of, Boye Mafe and Derek Hall, who have been pretty solid in their first few years in the league, and I think they have tremendous steps of growth ahead of them going forward. Julian Love's been a fantastic football player. I didn't even mention DK, some of these pieces. I like the running back room as well. So that, to me, when I look about the future, you have pieces that you can sit here and say, hey, we can win with these guys. Now let's just get them more around them and let's coach them up. Let's fix that offensive line and go from there. Appreciate y'all joining us here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Lock us in right here on Seahawks Today. And before we go, I want to give a thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's show. Scan the QR code and use code ChatSports to get your free Fume topper when you order your Journey Pack today.